This tarot reading is for RivaWitch. Now, Riva, in case you're wondering what I was just doing, I was cleansing my hands with some Florida water. It's something that's used in some of the Afro-Caribbean traditions and in brujeria or Mexican witchcraft, and I've discovered it or been introduced to it about a year and a half ago, and have found it to be really, really effective in calming and helping me center and in cleansing from things that I need to be cleansed with. So I use it pretty routinely to wipe down my tarot table, since I don't usually read using a cloth unless I'm maybe sitting at a table and there's something like a tablecloth or altar cloth already on the table. Okay, let's begin. Okay, Riva, this covers you. This crosses you. Beneath you, behind you. This crowns you, and this is before you. Yourself, your house, hopes and fears, and the outcome. Okay, Riva, let's look at the cards. There are two major arcana cards, the Wheel of Fortune and the Hanged Man, in this reading. There are some wands, some cups, and a pentacle. Oh, three major arcanas. Don't forget the Magician. So this is a fairly important reading. Let's look at where you are. The Eight of Swords is definitely a restriction. You see the lady is bound, blindfolded. She's at the shore in a rather stormy sort of condition, surrounded by swords that are thrust into the sand. This is speaking of restriction, feeling bound, held back. I would point out the sun is breaking through the clouds, and that there is a pathway across the sand that doesn't lead her through the swords. But she doesn't see that because she's blindfolded and she is quite tightly bound. Now, the crossing card that gets you out of this bound up situation. This is the Ace of Wands. Ace of Wands speaks of a new enterprise, a new decision. Wands are decisive. They have to do with the will. Now, how did you get yourself into this? Well, in the background, there is the Magician. The Magician speaks of skills, of crafts, of abilities that you have. But the Five of Cups, the immediate past. The Five of Cups can be read a lot of different ways, and it really, the way I read the cards depends on where the card is in the reading and what the other cards are around it. This is a disappointment. So I feel like that you have been sorely disappointed in the recent past, and this is part of why you feel that you are restricted and really can't move on. But you can. New enterprise, use the skills, the abilities that you have. Now let's look at the future. Immediate future, the Wheel of Fortune is a very happy card. It speaks of good luck, of changing, that things are, they go through their ups and downs. And this is ups. Now, the crowning card, which is the little bit more distant future, the Nine of Wands, speaks of strength and reserve. You see the rather strong-looking gentleman, rather buff-looking gentleman with his shirt off, standing on the high ground, holding his staff, and he has the other 8 staffs thrust into the ground behind him as reserve. Be sure that you use your reserve strength. Be sure that you keep some strength in reserve. Don't exert all of your strength at any one effort and thus become tired and unable to continue, because there are ups and downs. Now, let's look at the column. The first card, yourself, is the Ace of Cups. This speaks of feeling that you are a sensitive, caring person, and this is perhaps why the disappointment and the restrictions have affected you so much. Your house, the Hanged Man. Now, he's not being hanged by a noose. He is suspended upside down from a tree limb with his hands behind his back, and I don't see that as his hands bound behind his back so much as he's an acrobat, he's doing a trick. Now, the Hanged Man can speak of a sort of a suspension, a stalemate. I feel in this case, however, that the Hanged Man calls upon you in your house, in your situation, in your environment, to look at things in a new way, to turn things upside down and look at them differently. Hopes and fears. The Ace of Pentacles speaks of a new financial beginning. This is your hope. The fear that it will not come to pass, I think, is your fear. Now, final outcome. The Eight of Cups is a departure card. You see the figure, the cloaked figure with his staff, and I don't think you can see it in this video, but there's a flock of geese making a V over the moon. He's moving on. This is not a particularly sad card, except in the sense that any change, any moving on, has a little bit of sadness to it. But this is time to move on. This is where you're going. So, let's recap. You are presently bound, restricted, or you feel that you are. There is a path out of the restriction, and it leads you to move on. It's been my pleasure, Riva, doing this reading for you, and I hope that you find it useful. If you would like to ask questions about the reading or give me some feedback, please leave it in the comments.